This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 215. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest misconceptions I see in the health and fitness world and why copying someone else's routine almost never gets you the results you're hoping for. Let's talk about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? Well, I have taken a bit of a hiatus from social media lately, really other than posting weekly about this podcast. And admittedly, I'm still figuring out what I want my relationship with social media to be. And like many things I've talked about on this podcast, like scales, tracking apps, and really most things related to health and fitness, social media isn't inherently good or bad. It can be a useful tool, or it can most definitely be a weapon. And one of the things I see all the time in the fitness space on social media is just how much of other people's lives we have access to now. So think about your social media feed for just a minute. We know exactly what people eat, how many calories they're taking in a day, how much protein they get, exactly what workout they did that morning, how many steps they've taken, their pace per mile on their run this morning, what supplements they use, what time they wake up, what they bought at the grocery store. And that is just in one post. But in all seriousness, sometimes you can find out every waking detail about a person just by looking at their last few Instagram posts. And honestly, I get it. I watch those videos too sometimes, and some of them are entertaining. Some of them are educational. I've even picked up a few good ideas from some of those over the years, like mixing protein powder with coffee, which I've used previously as a mid-afternoon pick-me-up since I don't particularly love either one of those things alone. But when mixed together, it's actually pretty good. But if you start to actually peel the layers back, I wonder if there's something about all of this sharing that's making healthy habits harder instead of easier. Because I don't actually think the problem is seeing what other people do. I think the problem is what our brains do with that information once we have seen it. And the first thing I wonder is, why do we even watch this stuff in the first place? Like, really, why? Why do we get sucked into someone else's morning routine? And we may not want to admit it, but there is something about them that is generally appealing, right? And I don't think it's because we all secretly care about how many grams of protein an internet stranger is eating at lunch. I think we get sucked in because habits can feel messy. Health feels complicated. And as humans, we prefer certainty. We like clear answers. We like feeling that there is a right way to do something. And these posts and videos, they all tap into that. They make something complicated feel simple, and they create the illusion that if something works for someone else, then surely it should work for us too. So think about it. There are 100+ different opinions about what you should eat, how much protein you need, whether you should count calories, whether you should lift heavy weights, run, walk, do Pilates, HIIT, LIT, or all of the above. So should you eat breakfast? Should you fast? Should you eat carbs? And it can feel like every time you open your phone, someone has a different, conflicting answer. And I think all of that can be exhausting. So when you're scrolling and come across someone who says, here is exactly what I eat in a day, or here is my workout routine, or here is the exact schedule I follow, there's something really comforting about that. It feels concrete. It feels simple. It feels like maybe someone has this figured out. Almost like someone is handing you a recipe, and you might find yourself subconsciously wondering, if I buy these groceries, if I eat these meals, if I wake up at this time, and if I do this workout, maybe I'll finally become disciplined too. And I think there's something incredibly appealing about believing someone else already has it figured out, because then we don't have to. Now, I don't think most people who post those videos are trying to tell you, do exactly what I do. But I do think that's often how our brains interpret them. We see someone who looks healthy, muscular, successful, or disciplined, and our brain makes a connection. If I do what they're doing, maybe I'll get what they have. And honestly, who wouldn't want that? Because figuring it out for yourself is a whole lot harder. So now let's do a little thought experiment here. Go with me on this. So let's say tomorrow morning, you decide you're going to wake up and copy someone else's entire routine exactly. Let's say there's a woman on social media and she looks fit and she seems like she's got it together and she posts all the time about all of her meals and her workouts, and she's shared screenshots of her weight and percent body fat from her in-body scans, and you've seen how it's gone down, so now you are all in. So you eat exactly what she eats: the same breakfast, the same lunch, the same dinner, same snacks. You hit the same calorie target, same amount of protein. You take the same supplements, do the same workout, get up at the same time, drink the same coffee, get the same number of steps in. Maybe you even buy the same planner she uses while you're at it. So would it work? Would copying her routine get you the same results? Maybe, but maybe not. And I think that's where we make a really interesting leap. We assume that because a routine works for someone else, it should work for us too. But that routine you're copying was built around someone else's life, someone else's body, someone else's schedule, someone else's family, someone else's job, someone else's priorities and preferences. And yet somehow we convince ourselves that if we just copy the visible parts of someone else's life, we'll end up with the same results. And I think this is where things get interesting. Because when you're watching someone else's routine online, you're not actually seeing how they became that person. You're really just seeing where they ended up or where they are now. So think about it. That breakfast the super fit influencer is eating, that might be the result of 10 years of trial and error. Or that crazy workout she does. Maybe it's because she works from home and can exercise over lunch with her own home gym equipment. Or her early morning routine. Maybe her kids are grown, or maybe she doesn't even have kids. Or that midday walk. Maybe her meetings don't start until later and she works into the evenings, so the first part of her day is free. We have no idea because we're only seeing the final product. We're seeing the routine, but we aren't seeing everything that shaped it. And you can't see all of that in a 30-second Instagram reel. We don't see the years they spent figuring out what worked. We don't see the habits they tried and failed. We don't see their schedule, their families, their priorities, or their values. And all of those things are part of the reason that specific routine works for them. It's kind of like reading the last chapter of a book and assuming you know the whole story, but you really only know how it ends. And you missed everything that happened along the way to arrive at that ending. And I think this is where we finally get to what's really going on. Because the more I think about this, the more convinced I am that people aren't actually trying to copy someone else's breakfast or their coffee or their workout. I think they're looking for someone who can take the guesswork out of it. They look at someone online who seems healthy, disciplined, or successful and think, I want that too. Just tell me what to do. Tell me the right breakfast. Tell me the right workout. Tell me the right amount of protein. Tell me the routine. Because if someone's already got it figured out, then maybe I don't have to start from scratch. But here is the big problem. We end up confusing the behavior for the lesson. So what does that mean? It means we copy the meal prep instead of asking what problem the meal prep is solving. We copy the 5 a.m. workout instead of asking why that time works so well for her. We copy the protein goal instead of asking what they're actually trying to accomplish. But the behavior itself is not the lesson. The principle is. So meal prep, it is not magic. It is just one way to reduce friction. A 5 a.m. workout, it is not a secret. It's one way to protect your workout time before the day gets busy. A protein goal isn't about hitting some perfect number. It's really about eating enough food to stay satisfied and support your body. Those are all principles, and there are dozens of ways to apply those principles depending on the life you're actually living, not the one the fit influencer you see online is living. And that is why copying the behavior doesn't always give you the same result. And now beyond that, I think there's an even deeper mistake we make. And this is where we accidentally get the whole thing backwards. We look at someone who's fit, healthy, disciplined, or consistent and assume their routine is what created those qualities. We assume that the breakfast made them disciplined, that the workout made them consistent, that the planner made them organized. But I don't think that's the right order. I think those routines and successes are the result of years of experimenting, trying and failing, keeping what worked, scrapping what didn't, adjusting as life changed, learning what helped them feel good. So, in other words, it is not the Instagram-worthy, protein-forward breakfast that created the confidence. The confidence came from figuring out what worked for them. And once they had that confidence, the breakfast became easy. And that's a really different way of thinking about it, because it means the goal isn't to follow their routine. The goal is to build your own. And honestly, that is exactly why coaching almost never starts with, what should I eat? Very rarely do my clients come to me because they don't know what healthy foods are, or because they've never heard of strength training, or because they don't know vegetables are good for them. Most of the time, they already know all of this. And what they're really trying to figure out is, how do I make this work in my life, with my schedule, with my kids, my travel, with my stress? That is a completely different question, but I think it's a much better one, because the answer to that question is what makes your routine stick. And honestly, that is one of the biggest lessons coaching has taught me. I've coached women who eat almost the exact same foods. One feels great and completely free around food. The other feels trapped. I've coached women who both exercise every morning at the crack of dawn. One is taking care of herself. The other is trying to earn her dinner. Same behavior, completely different experience. And that's really important, because the behavior only tells me what someone is doing. It doesn't tell me why they're doing it. And if you don't stop to understand the why, it's really hard to know whether that behavior is actually helping them or hurting them. And that is exactly why I don't spend too much time trying to figure out whether someone's breakfast is right, because the breakfast usually is not the point, and the workout isn't the point either. The point is why those choices make sense to that person. What's driving them? What problem are they solving? What story are they believing? Because those answers completely change the meaning of the behavior. So let's take meal prep as an example. One woman meal preps because she hates making decisions after work, and she knows that if dinner isn't already figured out, she's more likely to get takeout or snack while she's trying to decide what to eat. So meal prep gives her one less decision to make. So now contrast that with someone else who meal preps because she's terrified she'll lose control if she doesn't. She's convinced that if she doesn't have perfectly portioned containers waiting for her in the fridge, she's going to fail. So again, same behavior, very different experience. Or think about running. One woman goes for a run because she genuinely enjoys how she feels afterward. It clears her head. She feels stronger. It's something she looks forward to. And then another woman runs because she believes she has to burn off the extra cookies she ate yesterday. Again, same behavior, completely different relationship with it. And this is exactly why coaching conversations almost never focus solely on food or protein or workouts, because those things are really just the surface. The real conversation is about perfectionism or fear or guilt or control or people-pleasing or identity, because those are the things that are actually driving our choices. And once you start understanding what's driving the behavior starts to make more sense. And you can stop asking, why can't I just stick with it? And instead start asking, what problem am I actually trying to solve here? And that is a completely different conversation, and it's a much more useful one. Because if you keep trying to change the behavior without understanding what's driving it, you're probably going to keep fighting the same battle over and over again. Not because you haven't found the right routine, but because you've been trying to solve the wrong problem. And this is exactly why trying to copy someone else's routine can only take you so far. You can see what they're doing, but you can't see why they're doing it. And the why is usually the part that matters most. So now, with all of this in mind, where does that leave us? Does this mean you should never watch another What I Eat in a Day video? No, of course not. Like I said earlier, I've gotten good ideas from them too. And really, the goal isn't to stop learning from other people. The goal is to start asking better questions about what we see other people doing. So meaning, instead of asking, what does she eat? Maybe try asking, why is she eating that? What problem is that breakfast solving for her? Or instead of asking, what's her workout routine? Maybe a better question would be, why does that routine work so well in her life? Or instead of asking, should I do what she's doing? Maybe a better question would be, what would solve that same problem in my own life? Because maybe her problem is that she works from home, but yours is that you're commuting an hour every day. Maybe her problem is decision fatigue, but your problem is that you skip lunch and are starving by 4 o'clock. Maybe her problem is finding time to exercise, but yours is believing that every workout has to be an hour long or it doesn't count. And those are all completely different problems, and different problems require different solutions. And that is why I think one of the most useful questions you can ask yourself is, what problem am I actually trying to solve here? Because if you skip that question, it's really easy to spend a lot of time solving the wrong problem. You can copy someone else's breakfast when what you actually need is a plan for your super busy mornings. You can surely copy someone else's workout when what you really need is permission to stop believing that every workout has to be super intense in order to count. You can also copy someone else's meal prep when what you really need is a way to make dinner feel less overwhelming after a long day. And those aren't food or exercise problems, really. Those are life problems. And once you understand your own unique problem, then you can start building a solution that actually fits your life. Because the goal was never to build someone else's routine. The goal is to understand your own life well enough so that you can build a routine that fits your life, not someone else's. So maybe the next time you find yourself watching someone else's morning routine, or another what I eat in a day video, or scrolling through all the things someone else is doing, instead of asking, should I be doing that too? Maybe ask yourself, what would actually work in my life? Because healthy people don't all eat the same breakfast, or follow the same workout, or wake up at the same time. But maybe what they have in common is that they've each built a routine that fits their own life. Because here's the takeaway I want you to remember the next time you're watching a super fit influencer's reel and wondering if you should adopt her glute routine too. Healthy people are not successful because they found the perfect routine. They are successful because they built a routine that worked for them. And if you want habits that actually last, that's exactly what you'll need to do too. Because trying to copy someone else's routine usually does not work. And it's not because it's a bad routine, but it's because it's a solution to someone else's problem. Your habits weren't meant to be copied. They were meant to be built, one decision and one adjustment at a time. And when you approach it that way, something else happens. You stop trying to become someone else, and you become someone who understands herself well enough to know what actually works for her. Because honestly, the goal isn't to eat like someone else, or work out like someone else, or live like someone else. The goal is to understand yourself well enough to keep building a lifestyle and a set of habits that actually fit you. Because that is not something you find, it's something you build. All right? And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, we don't spend time trying to copy someone else's routine. We figure out what's actually getting in your way, and then we build habits that fit your life, your schedule, and your goals so they actually last. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's talk about how coaching can help you build a routine that finally works for you. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you want to build muscle but don't know where to start, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and download my free guide to help you maximize your strength training. Inside, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle, plus simple 1, 2, and 3-day workout plans that you can follow with just dumbbells and a bench. You'll also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. My goal is to help you get strong, and this strength training guide will help you do it. Go to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and check it out. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.